Welcome to the Power of Now. I'm Coach Mitchell.
And I'm Coach Darren.
We are so glad to be back before you after a long stint of being away handling business. Just know that it has been a productive couple of weeks. But tonight, we want to come and share some thoughts around conscious choices and consequences of
Yes.
those bad choices.
First, we want to we want to do a sound check. Every week we go through this.
Every week.
We need an audio engineer. uh, Things work one moment, and then the next moment they don't. We've simplified our audio system here, and we still encounter kind of different issues. But anyway, we're here. We apologize, but if someone comes online and you know what, the audio is not good, please let us know.
Absolutely. So, take all feedback, constructive feedback, no offense to whatever feedback you provide, because we want to make this platform not just educational, engaging, empowering, but we also want you to get something out of it. And we don't want you to be distracted by the noise, pun intended, that may come through that distracts you from getting a clear message of the content that we're trying to bring to you.
Yes. Now, back to tonight's topic. You know what? Conscious choices and consequences. Well, let's start off. What's a conscious choice? And a common, definition is basically a choice that you make with your full awareness, the full awareness of the possible outcomes, or the possible consequences. So you're fully engaged in those decisions.
Right. But Coach, even before you get to from the decisions or the conscious choice that you make to the outcomes, it's the intention of the choices that you make.
Yes.
What are your intentions for the desired outcome of those potential outcomes, I should say.
And those intentions are based off of your values, your priorities, your beliefs. All of those go into the choices that we make, and that's why it's important to be fully engaged, because otherwise we're kind of on autopilot, just acting out. And I'm gonna say acting out like say almost like a child.
Reacting versus being proactive and deliberate about what your intentions are.
Yes.
Literally. And it goes back to our BETS model, right?
Yes.
Your beliefs, your emotions, your thoughts, and the stories that we tell. Are we telling
Absolutely.
ourselves stories just so we can be reactionary in our choices, or just so we can do what we feel we want to do out of an emotional state in that moment that we make that choice?
Yes. Now, I just want to clarify that pretty much when you talk about making a conscious choice, we're really focusing on making a choice that's going to move you forward in a particular area. But it doesn't actually have to be that. Meaning, I was speaking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about, eating healthier. He was trying to improve his quote unquote diet, but he made a choice to eat pizza. But he was well aware of the consequences of eating that pizza. So even though it wasn't a choice in his best interest, he was fully aware of that choice. Now, I'm not trying to give anyone permission to, make bad choices and say, "Hey, it was a conscious choice," and I'm living with the consequences. That's not what our intent is.
No, it's not. But I think, Coach, we would be remiss in saying that a conscious choice is a conscious choice, bad, good, or indifferent.
Yes, if you're fully aware.
Exactly. Good evening, Sister Tiffany. Good evening, Brother Robert. Thanks for joining. So,
well, can we get a sound check now?
Absolutely. So, are you guys hearing us okay? Is the audio coming across? Just give us a thumbs up. Let us know that Okay, great, great. We're good. We're good. Go ahead,
Oh
Coach.
man, that's good to hear. Even though we can't hear, but
Right.
it's glad to hear that. Okay, so how do you go about making conscious choices? Uh, I kind of think first, like I said, always like to tell people, what's the vision that you have for yourself?
Mhm.
Mhm. You know, what are the things that you value? What's most important?
Mm.
And one of the things, like I can go to, think about things that are common to most people, or things that people can relate to. Is again, we go back to your health.
Right.
Mhm. Do you value your health? Most people will probably want to say yes, but then they know what's coming after that. Because if you say yes, the next question would be again, what are the choices that you are making?
To change.
Yes, to
To
improve,
improve.
to at least protect your health, mhm, and hopefully then to improve it. I when I was teaching, strategy at the college, I one of the tests that I've always had is you can tell a company's true intentions, true strategy by how they allocate their resources.
Mhm.
They can say whatever they want, but if you just look at how their resources are being allocated and the actions or the cultures, you begin to understand the true strategy. So it's the same thing on an individual level. So when you go through your day, another litmus test is I want you to think about how many choices you're making that are truly your choices and they're not reactive. Now, just one quick thing, Coach Mitchell.
Mhm.
We get caught up in believing that some of our choices are active, but in reality, they're reactive. Case in point, if you get up to go to a job that you claim you hate, that you complain about, that's a reactive choice.
Mhm.
If you say, well, I have to go, it's reactive.
Mhm.
Mhm. So you look through your day and simply ask, how many choices are you making that are intentional about improving some area of your life?
Right. And I think, Coach, you hit upon a poignant point that's very relevant. Conscious choices are choices that actually empower you
Mhm.
to align with the goals that you set for yourself.
Yes. Mhm.
And if you set the bar low, you're going to get up and react every day, right?
Mhm.
You're going to get up and react every day to whatever that bar is. So if your goals, your actions don't align with your goals and where you want to be, then you really aren't making a positive conscious choice to move forward.
Right. Mhm.
You're choosing to continue to perpetuate the mundane day in, day out grind.
Yes.
Whether it
Mhm.
is, it doesn't necessarily have to be a job.
Mhm.
It could be in a relationship that has run its course. I mean, it could
Mhm.
be in any area of your life, but if you're not making a conscious choice to set a goal to move beyond where you are, then you're acting in a reactionary state. So
Yes. Reactionary, and I'll also say, or a habitual,
habitual,
you know,
habitual, that's a good word.
yes, because we go through most of our day, most people, your day is really a series of habits. And habits are good in certain areas, but they also can be bad when we're doing the same thing over and over and not really giving it much thought. See, when we drive, we're at a point where we can drive and really do it from a subconscious level,
Hmm.
mhm, uh, which could be good. And yes, good point, Tiffany. Yes, being
Yes,
intentional.
you have to be intentional.
So when we drive, being able to drive and your mind can think about other things at times can be really good. But we also know when you drift off and you're not really in the moment, that could turn out to be really bad. Uh, so I'm asking you, or I'm challenging you to think about how much of your day is just a habitual thing that really doesn't produce, to your point, Coach Mitchell, doesn't really produce anything related to your goals. For instance, you get up, you have your coffee, you take your shower, you do all those things. that's just habit.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Do you get up and go into a routine, in other words, making a healthy breakfast, or are you making the choice not to have anything in the morning because maybe you're, you know, doing intermittent fasting? Like, are your choices aligned with something greater than what exists in the moment, the
Right.
status quo?
Exactly. And you talked about a moment ago, choosing, going to a job
Mhm.
that you constantly complain about not wanting, or it's just making you miserable. So you're choosing a path that doesn't really resonate with the passion that you have for your life or for
Mhm.
a fulfilling life. So, what steps are you taking? Because if we really think about life, it's about goal setting. Because if you don't, the old cliche, it's not old, it stands and it'll stand for the rest of time. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Mhm.
So what are you falling for every day because you haven't taken a stand for yourself?
Yep.
You haven't made a conscious choice to do anything better.
Right. And that's what I said. So when you start from the top and like we drill down to our choices, we really want to go, we'll say like upstream to the point of looking at, yeah, our choices are dictated again by our values, by what we, by our priorities. Mhm. And so when I ask you, what are your priorities? What's important to you right now in this moment in your life? Uh, you know what? It may not be the same thing that was important to you last year, 5 years ago, 20. Definitely shouldn't be, what was important to you 20 years ago, unless there are your higher principles. Uh, you know what? So are you still living in that same space? Now, as a 60 something year old man, I always find it amazing. Yeah. mm, you know what? I find it amazing that I look at friends whose conversation has not evolved.
Mhm.
So it's like their choices are from habit or from who they used to be.
Mhm. A time when.
Yes, So, I again challenge you to really begin to think mhm, uh, about your choices. And that brings you into the awareness, brings you into the consciousness, you know, which will lead you to asking yourself, is this really a good choice? Is this something I should be doing?
Mhm. I agree, Coach, where you can have conversations with someone that you've known for 40 or 50 years, and the conversation, you could actually recite parts of the
Yes.
conversation um, that person is going to bring to the dialogue, which is sad when there is no progression in
Right.
any area of a person's life. So, with that being said, first, you're right, Tiffany, planning is key. We have to have a plan in order to move forward. We can't just stumble into our destiny. Some people may
Mm.
be able to do that, but for most of us, we need a plan. We need a
Yes.
strategic plan. We need a strategy. And I just want to say, hey, Brother James, Coach, you mentioned stream, and Brother James popped up. So, he's an avid fisherman, right?
Mhm.
So I look back over the lives of my siblings and I can see the progress and the growth that they've made from, when we were younger. And our conversations when we are together are progressive.
Mhm.
They're progressive. While we might reminisce, we also talk about what's possible. What's
Mhm.
possible. So making conscious choices, we're not just talking about in how you can impact an organization or your job per se, but how you move and maneuver within your immediate environment and helping those progress that you know that you
Mhm.
have relationship with.
Mhm.
And I think that helps lead to not just your success, but the success of those around you.
Absolutely. And that's really another litmus test is when you are around family and friends, mm, yeah, observe the conversation, you know, observe the language. Because here's the thing, to move into that space of making conscious choices, you have to move into a space of consciousness.
Mhm.
And before you get to that shift in consciousness, you have to have a shift in language. Mm,
Absolutely.
You know, so like I said, when coaching someone to make major changes in their life, and I always go back to health because that's something that's common to all of us. Is the first is changing your language, creating your environment, in creating an environment of what you want to be, what you want to become, because then that begins to lead you to making the choices that are aligned with that. It will just happen. uh, so you really want to be mindful, you want to be courageous. It's not easy, because see, when we fall back and we think it's cool, oh man, just go with the flow. And like I said, you can only do that when you become an expert. All right? Now, that's a different conversation, but you can only truly go with the flow in life when you've mastered it.
And I don't think any of us have mastered life.
No.
Even those
Mhm.
that we look at as
Mhm.
experts in their fields
Mhm.
have not mastered life,
Right.
because you even see them, people who we have looked at and thought have been successful, have shifted in some area or aspect of their lives because they didn't have all the answers, right? So the choices that they made along the way, and I'm gonna talk about the big O, because you mentioned health and wellness. You mentioned, um, eating habits.
Right.
You didn't say eating habits, but when we talk about making a conscious decision to change how we um, feel and look about ourselves.
Mhm.
Oprah is worth billions of dollars. And to look at Oprah 10 years, 15 years ago, we still would have thought Oprah was just successful in everything. Everything comes easy, everything is easy for her because we look at her as having achieved and arrived. But she wasn't happy with herself because of the choices that she made when it came to her diet. So she had to shift into a whole new mindset because she became consciously aware that her lifestyle would preclude an imminent or an early, I would say, early access to ending her life because of her lifestyle,
Mhm.
her choices in her eating habits, as a lot of us, as a lot of us.
Mhm.
So I think that, again, not looking at other people thinking that you need to be like someone else, but stopping to make the decision for yourself based on what is best for you, not
No-
others.
yes. Another key word is lifestyle, because that's what conscious choices are about. And again, I'm just going to stay, you know, in the space of health. Again,
Mhm.
forgive me for repeating it, but just something that's common to all of us and it should be important to all of us. But you know, that word is often used that it is our lifestyle that leads to our illnesses. Mhm. Like say all the chronic diseases. It's our lifestyle. And what does that mean? It means basically the choices that we're making day to day, moment to moment. You know what? Do you choose something unhealthy to eat versus something healthy? Mhm. Do you choose to move or exercise versus staying on the sofa? Mhm.
Or
These are
sitting at your desk.
or sitting at your desk.
Right.
Here's a good one. If they tell you that if you're sitting at your desk all day, to get up at least every hour, once every hour, take a 5-minute walk. We know that, we hear it, but do you make that conscious decision to execute it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you holding yourself accountable
Yes.
for doing it,
Mhm.
right?
So it's those kind of things, and I can share. I went through a period where I was doing all the we'll say the corporate meals, and then you start you're constantly going out, and what you do you go out, you end up eating really probably the wrong foods and too much of the wrong foods, but you're eating, you're getting the appetizer, you're having a meal, you're getting a dessert, you're having as I say, the drink, the libations. Because the first time, like I said, you sit down at the table, the server comes over to you, can I get you a drink? Well, and out of reaction, even if you didn't want it, it was again a habit. And you I got to a point where I was actually aware that I was just reacting like Pavlov's dog. you know, can I get something to drink? Yeah, 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 yeah. Where you had to be in the moment, have full awareness that no, that's not what I really want.
Right.
Because I can't say I want to lose weight, I want to become healthier again, and not make conscious choices for that to happen.
Right. And that goes back to what you mentioned earlier, that
Mhm.
you do things out of habit,
Mhm.
not out of a conscious effort.
Right.
You do things out of habit. So
Mhm.
if you're stuck in a routine, the best thing to do is ask yourself, why? What can I do differently? And how can I go about doing it?
Yes.
And when you find yourself in a setting like when you do go out to a restaurant, when the waiter comes over and asks, would you like something to drink? Water should probably be the first thing out of
Yes.
your mouth,
Mhm.
right? So making a conscious decision, you know what, the first thing I'm going to order is water. Even if I'm going to have if I want a cocktail, the first thing I'm going to order is water. And I guarantee you, if you order water, you won't order the cocktail.
Yes. Mhm. Now, that's like I said, we'll call it like level one of conscious, choices. Same scenario.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, Coach. Tiffany said, working from home, you tend to eat more.
Yes. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now we could go. We could take that.
That's a whole other
Yeah.
topic.
Yep. And say, you know what? You want to eat more, but you want to eat more of the right things. So what do you need to do? You need to bring the right things
You need to
into your
shop
home.
differently, right?
Yes. So we can have a whole discussion about that. And again, it's conscious choices. But Coach Mitchell, we've had discussion. Like you and I have a favorite restaurant that we used to go to,
Mhm.
and where they would just overload you with food.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean you had to eat it all in that setting. Mhm. But you try. Why? Because out of habit. Some of those habits, as we've had discussed before, may be rooted in your childhood. Like we talked about the possibility. How many of us were told, oh, make sure you eat all the food on your plate?
Mhm.
Mhm.
But also, Coach, in that specific example, you didn't want to disappoint your host.
Right.
So if they're bringing you more than you can actually consume, it is your responsibility to be accountable for you.
Yes.
We could have very easily said package it, we'll take it with us, but not wanting to embarrass or disappoint the host,
Yeah.
right? And we do that in different scenarios, not just with food, but we do that with our relationships.
Yes.
We acquiesce because we don't want someone else to be disappointed versus taking accountability and responsibility for making sure that we're whole in all aspects of who we
Yes.
are, right?
Mhm. Or, like I said, not looking different than everyone else, being oddball out, because even as an adult, you're going to still deal with peer pressure, which again really amazes me as an adult to see grown folks encouraging their family or friends to do things that are not in their best interest.
So if you want to stop it,
Yeah.
just stop it.
So, for instance, let's go back to you're going out you can make the conscious choice if your intentions are, I want to become healthier, which then starts with you're going to make conscious choices about going places where your food choices are aligned with who you are trying to become. And then also when you sit down, as Coach Mitchell said, you order water. Another conscious choice is I don't have to eat the whole dish. So before you start eating, the conscious choices, can you please can you bring me a doggy bag to go, and then you take half that you're going to take home.
Mhm.
And a lot of, like I said, it takes effort because some of the habits are ingrained in us, and we operate. And I believe it's like throughout the day, 95% of the decisions we make, the choices we make, are done on a subconscious level, meaning we truly are not even aware. We're just going through the motions. We think we're aware or we're in control, but we're really not. uh, so just take time as the rest of tonight, uh or tomorrow morning, from the time you wake up, catch yourself and think about the choices that you make, and
Mhm.
are they aligned with a something bigger that you would like to accomplish or experience.
Exactly. And also just be gracious with yourself. Because change doesn't happen overnight.
Mm.
So be compassionate with yourself because we all make mistakes, but know that those mistakes are things that we can learn from, that
Mhm.
there are huge opportunities that we can leverage for our growth.
Absolutely. Now, so if you are on a journey, on any journey to improve, and you have a relapse, which really is not a relapse.
It's not a good word.
No, but I think you understand when I say we come off of our routine, we
Yes,
veer off.
yes.
Mhm. There's an example of that normally given in personal and professional development circles about the first moon landing, where they said, the spacecraft was, I think, 98% of the time was off course. You know, they constantly had to readjust to get back on a course. And you think you're going to have that, especially the larger your target, you know, the larger the goal, the more times you're probably going to veer off. So you have to be okay with that and just know how to come back.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Because with them veering off course, they actually developed resilience and adaptability.
Yes. Mhm.
So they were able to complete the mission versus giving up and abandoning the mission, or we never would have had the landing on the moon, right?
Mhm. Some people still question that, but
Well, of course, we ain't going into the conspiracy
right.
theories, okay? But
Uh,
yes,
mhm.
but it just helped them after they rectified. I mean, 98% of the time, if we worked on the job and we got our jobs wrong, 98% of the time we terminated, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
But through resilience and perseverance, they were able to adapt after rectifying the issue. That 2% of adaptability made the difference.
And it came from, or it's rooted in, one, there's a vision, there's a destination, and we're making conscious choices to reach that destination. Doesn't mean it's going to be a linear, or a straight, point A to point B, journey, but we know where we want to go. And if we go off course, we veer off course, we're learning how to bring it back on course. And with each readjustment, as you say, they become more resilient. You learn more. You'll learn more about yourself. You'll learn where your weaknesses are,
Mhm.
and you will continue to make, you make adjustments. Uh,
And you learn again, you learn from your mistakes. And what are your mistakes? It's just a footprint of history and time, right?
mhm.
So if you look back to where you made a place and time where you made a mistake and how you have been able to overcome it, then you know that you can continue to move forward
Yes.
because you know that you have the ability and the capabilities, you have the skill sets, and you have the wherewithal. But the most important thing that you have is the knowledge of what not to do
Right.
the next time. So I think that is important to, an important takeaway.
Absolutely, because you look at it as it's a journey. Everything, life in and of itself is just a journey. Uh, which is why we mention things about why you want to be compassionate with yourself, because once you decide, and hopefully, like I said, you decide in this moment, I'm going to become more conscious of the choices I make. But even before that, my choices must be aligned with something, I say something larger than yourself.
Mhm.
And so there has to be a bigger vision that you have. And I like to say, it should permeate throughout your entire life. Now,
Absolutely.
now, is it hard work? Yeah, in the beginning, it's hard work. But right now, you have a lifestyle. Mhm. The question is it a lifestyle that's serving you? So you're making choices every day, but are those choices serving you? So you come into the moment, I say the power of now, and you think, you catch yourself. "Hmm, do I really need that second helping? Hmm, do I need to have dessert? Like if I'm trying to become healthier, when you're in the supermarket, you catch yourself because you are in that moment. Hmm, So you become more mindful of, hmm, let me stay out that ultra processed food aisle
Exactly.
because ain't nothing down there, good for me.
But you find yourself practicing mindfulness
Hmm.
because you are being intentional about your choices. And I think setting clear expectations and goals for yourself is key in making conscious choices.
Yes.
Because if you don't have if you don't have a defined path as to where you're going, you're going to be all over the place.
Yes.
And it's not just with your eating, it's with your shopping. How many pairs of, patent leather blue pumps do you need? Well, you know, how many different purses of, do you actually need? How many can you carry at one time? Unless you're building an investment portfolio of some sort to pass along, are you really being intentional? Are you making wise choices?
Mhm.
Because your conscious choices don't necessarily have to be wise. You could consciously be making a choice to acquire without any real intention.
That is true.
So I think that's important to note.
Mhm. Now, time, now that we're talking about lifestyle, and again, your lifestyle, you know, for the most part, will change over the course of your life for different reasons.
Mhm.
But there's one of the things that, I mentioned before about as you get older, your conversation should change, your language should change, naturally, your behavior should change. The core of who you are may or may not change. It all depends on whether the core of you when you were younger, you know, was not the best person, and you decided that you wanted to become a better person. So the core of you changed, and I could even possibly argue that the core of you that wants to change at 30 or 40,
Mhm.
that authentic you existed when you were probably 20.
Right.
You're really just kind of tapping into it, at 30 or 40. But the fact that you're tapping into it is most important. But as you get older, the things that are important to you in the what they call the afternoon or evening of your life
Mhm.
will be totally different than what was important to you in the morning aspect of your life. Mhm. When we're younger, we tend to be driven by ego. Mhm. You know what? We, yeah, a lot of what we do is really driven by ego. And there's no judgment on anybody, but it's just a part of growth. When you move into the afternoon or evening of your life, hopefully you're shifting to things that are more meaningful to you. Mhm. So you begin to think differently. Like I said, maybe you were driven by money when you're younger, and then you realize as you get older that that no longer serves you the way it did when you were younger.
Mhm.
Not that you don't need it, not that you don't desire it, not that you don't want it, but you're not driven by it. That's not the measure of your life anymore.
Right, right.
Mhm. Now, you start to look for things that are more meaningful. And that's also something that, again, observing with family and friends, and I talked about looking at the conversation, Coach Mitchell, that
Mhm.
you have, what, people as they've gotten older, it still hasn't clicked that they're looking for anything meaningful to do in their life, nothing purposeful. It's just, I'll go to work, I'm still buying stuff, I'm still acquiring things.
Right, right.
Mm, Now,
And also, if you find yourself constantly in a position of, or in a posture of need, that should also speak volumes to you and your conscious about needing to make better choices for you
mhm,
and making choices that are going to be impactful and progressive versus, short term. And I think a lot of us don't think, or a lot of people don't think long term. We are very short sighted.
yes.
We're very short sighted. And that impedes our ability to see beyond our immediate circumstances.
Mhm. That's why it's important to, like I say, the rest of tonight, if this is resonating with you on any level, is you just start by thinking about how do you see the rest of your life, mhm, playing out. And you start from there. And then you start to, you got your vision. You begin to think about, well, what are the goals that I need?
Mhm, mhm.
How, and like when it again, just going back to say the health and wellness is, I'm not big on telling people to diet, uh, but you do need to build in systems and create the environment that is basically aligned with what you're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
That goes with the people that you surround yourself with. Mhm. It goes to your immediate environment. Mhm. Because if you begin to learn how you know the mind works, it will begin to lead you into being the person that's basically adapting to the environment.
Yeah.
Mhm. Uh, you know, people normally misquote Charles Darwin. His quote was, uh, yeah, the survival of the fittest. And that's really not what he said. It was basically the species that can adapt, better able to adapt, are the ones that will survive. So you begin to see it's a natural inclination for us to adapt to our environment, good or bad. So you want to be more conscious in your choices, be conscious in creating the environment. And that means, I say people, places, faces, and spaces that are more aligned with who you want to become. Mhm.
Exactly. And I think that in adapting, if you take on that posture, you want to fill in the gaps that are not working, not just for you, but for the greater good of those around you.
Yes. Mhm. You know, think about this as well. Now, I go like, well, I'll give you examples. I've had a bunch of hobbies, uh, activities over the years. And with each one, I made a commitment to try to put myself around people who were already doing it. It helped my learning, you know, curve. And I know if, brother James is still on, he's an avid fisherman. When I reconnected to fishing, I immerse myself in. I have this habit that's just how I am. Uh, no, you. I do a lot of research. Again, understand the language. You, know, you learn as much as you can because then that helps in terms of transitioning into that person. Because what was I trying to do? I was trying to become, you know, an angler, uh, a more avid, skilled fisherman. The only way to do that was to be around people who were doing it. Now, and again, to make conscious choices to do that. And I've done it in other areas of my life. So you want to start again creating the environment that's conducive to helping you make that, you know, to help you make those conscious choices. That's actually what helps you to make that helps to make it easier. Mhm. Which is the other thing that I learned years ago. Probably need to start doing it again. But what they say, if you plan to go to the gym in the morning, you plan to go running, anything like that, what do? You lay your clothes out the night before. That creates the environment. Mhm. So, again, from a health and wellness perspective, one of the first things you want to do is you create the environment in your home that is more aligned with, you know, uh, who you're trying to become, and that will allow you to make more conscious decisions, choices. When you build up that muscle, then you can make conscious choices in other environments that are not set up for you. But it reduces the temptation to make the unconscious choices.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I think also we need to share that the choices that you make really are based on, the morals and values of who you are and, what the role that it plays in your decision making. So I think that, it's important that our choices align philosophically with your beliefs, your principles, and the the moral fabric, I would say, of who you are. But they should also be decisions made and based on integrity and self-respect,
yes. Mhm.
right? So that any conflicting choices or decisions that may have you in inner turmoil, you're able to identify them up front rather than having to deal with them throughout a process and having to abandon a choice and or deal with negative consequences.
And one of the other things you that factor in this is curiosity. Because to make conscious choices is going to require you to be curious about, again, the consequences, the possibilities. Now, and quite often you'll probably want to do research so that you're making conscious choices based off of all available information to you in the moment. It may not be all the available information, but sometimes you have to make a decision. You have to make it now. What do I know? What don't I know?
Right.
Uh, but most importantly, I'm going to do my best to make a decision to move me forward.
Not just take things at face value.
Right.
I think that's important. Coach, you're right. Um, not just taking things at face value and not just allowing what other people say to be imposed upon you, but rather do a deeper dive into whatever subject matter or content or objective or whatever it might be. Do the research for yourself so that you can conclude a matter with the best information
Hmm.
possible.
And like I said, it all begins with asking yourself, what vision do you have for your life? And what type of person are you becoming? And are you becoming a person based off of your, you know, intentions, your principles, your beliefs? Or are you just going to allow yourself to be molded by the environment in which you find yourself? Mhm. So you become conscious even about your thoughts. Mhm. So you get a negative thought. Nope, I'm not going to reside there. I'm going to do my best to replace it with a positive thought.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah. And again, I'm going to be conscious of being compassionate because sometimes it won't happen. Sometimes that negative thought is going to haunt you. Oh, but you're going to make the conscious effort to override it with a positive thought. You know, being conscious about being in a space of gratitude, you know, conscious about smiling. You see someone, you know, you speak, you smile. Or, you know, if you allow yourself just to go with the flow, that flow might mean you're back to your daily habits of having a scowl on your face. Who you mad at? Who you mad at? Huh? Looking at me like I did something to you. I don't even know you, you know? Uh,
And that's so, Coach, we are in such a time as that where, you can't even look at people without causing an offense. And what is the offense? You know, and that is just illustrative of people not having a sense of awareness and just floating through life. Again, we call it surface living, right?
mhm.
And not really having any empathy and compassion or any conscious thought about their choices and what their actions and emotions, have on others, or how their emotions, acting out on their emotions, the impact that it has on others. And I think it's just such a sad state of affairs to be in, where you can't see the good in humanity to the point where if someone is looking at you, you find it offensive,
Yes.
right? So, I think it's important that we embrace conscious choices because consciousness brings about awareness. And when you are aware, you are more apt to be empathetic. You're more apt to be sympathetic. You're more aware of the impact that your actions have on your decisions and how they play out in leading to a more fulfilling and purposeful life.
Absolutely. Uh, well stated. Because part of that awareness would ask yourself in a given moment, if it's, again, if you're feeling, again, someone's looking at you, and your first reaction is negative, the curiosity kicks in and asks, why do I feel threatened?
Right.
Yeah.
Sister Tiffany, she's spot on. People will stare and not even smile at you.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you offer a smile back, 9 times out of 10, if you smile, someone will return
Yes.
the smile or the gesture, or they may turn their head, which is okay. But you do have those individuals who may become emotional and give you a negative reaction to your smile. So it's, again, I think it's key for us to remember that we have to be conscious and live consciously in our choices and not react to the negative external environment so that we can be the positive light that may impact someone else's day, but yet keeps us on course.
Right. So like that's a good example that you can choose when someone doesn't respond with the same energy that you put out. You can choose, make the conscious decision to not, you know what, allow your energy, allow the person you want to be to come down to their level and to stay in your space. Mhm. If you go like with a unconscious response, it's probably to react,
Mhm.
you know what? And then you get mad because that person is mad. But if you can make the conscious decision, I'm going to stay in my space. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to let this person's, you know what, negative energy, you know, distort my day. So that's another example of, again, making conscious decisions. You know?
Yeah.
So exactly, you like to smile. That's where you want to stay. You know what? And you will smile. You will be you, regardless. You will consciously make the decision. I'm going to smile no matter what.
Exactly,
Mhm,
Tiffany,
mhm,
exactly. And Coach, I find myself 9 times out of 10, I do smile. And when
mhm,
others react negatively or they don't respond in kind, I laugh at them. But
mhm,
there is that 1% of the time that I react.
mhm.
And I guess I stoop down to that level. However, what I find myself doing, thank you, Auntie, thank you for joining. What I find myself doing afterwards is being upset with myself, not with that person, but for allowing
Right.
myself to actually be pulled into that negative environment, that
Yes.
negative energy. So, I think again, that's that 1% of the time, my countenance is normally 98, 99% happy. So it's laughable, but I make a conscious choice to be a light versus a dimmer.
Yeah. I think that's a good example of being aware of your choices, making a conscious choice to be a particular type of person with particular type of behavior.
Mhm.
And by making that conscious choice, you don't get uh, distracted or thrown off by someone else's behavior.
Exactly.
So again, I just challenge you know uh, everyone, decide on the person you want to become, decide on how you want to spend your life going forward, regardless of how old you are. Make the decision. Yeah. How do I want to spend the rest of my life?
Coach, you going into your wrap
Okay, maybe
up?
I'm gonna make a conscious choice. You know, uh, you know. So ask yourself, uh, yeah, how do you want to spend the rest of your life, and the person that you want to become, and then start making choices that are aligned with that. Mhm,
Absolutely. And, I think, that is the perfect place to end this discussion
mhm,
because we want to send you off in a positive um, space to make the
mhm, mhm.
conscious choice to be not just impactful, but to be intentional about the choices that you make so that not only are you living a more fulfilling life, but you are showing others that it is possible.
Absolutely.
And so are you. So
Mm,
consider the impact that your decisions have, not just on your life, but on the lives of others. And make a conscious effort to strive to make better decisions, forward moving decisions, long term, lasting, impactful decisions so that you can have a fulfilling and purposeful life. So, with that, Coach Darren,
I'm good. I think you ended it perfectly.
listen, as we always say, one, thank you for spending the last hour with us in this discussion. Thank you for engaging. But remember, if you don't start now, there will be no next. I'm Coach Mitchell.
I'm Coach Darren.
Join us tomorrow night for Inside Outside on Wellness Wednesday, where we will be bringing you some really great health and wellness tips to help you along your health and wellness journey. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Good night.
Good night.